Hello and welcome to library class. Now, do you know this child? I think you do. He's your classmate, Evan. But can you tell which of these really small boys grew into Evan? I'll give you 5 seconds. Did he get it right? He's quite easy to spot, isn't he? And there he is. How about this person here? Any ideas? This person is Queen Elizabeth II of England. She's the Queen of England. But can you tell me which of these 6-year-old girls is her? She's the same age you guys are now, more or less. Can you spot her? Well done if you spotted it. Not easy, that one. There we are. Although I think probably we should mark it's her with something more appropriate. There we are. Sorry, ma'am. No disrespect intended. What about this person? I think you know who he is. He's your librarian. Can you tell which of these children used to be me? There I am. I'm sitting in the park with my grandpa. It can be fun to go back and remember things that happened to you when you were younger. And sometimes those memories, you can turn them into stories. Although it has to be said, whether you're me, or you, or Evan, or the Queen of England, some things happen when you're so young that it's hard to remember them happening at all. Here's a little bit of film that was taken at exactly the same time as that photograph. I'm so little here, I can't really remember much of this. I imagine there's a lot in your childhood as well that you've forgotten. Here I am learning to walk. I don't remember that at all, but I did learn to walk. You've seen me walking around, right? Yeah, so you know it's true. Check this out. This is me about your age, showing off my amazing sporting abilities. This is where I reached my sporting peak, I think. And as you can see, I'm standing in the snow. Now, this I can remember. I had a really wonderful time building a giant snowman with my brother and my dad. So I think if Mrs. Maxwell was to ask me to write a personal narrative about a day that I remember, I might pick that one. Writing personal narratives can be a lot of fun, and today's story is based on a personal narrative, kind of. It's a really famous story called Dogger. And in this story, there's a little boy called Dave, and he has a stuffed toy called Dogger. Now, I have a stuffed toy. He's not called Doggy, he's called Hamley. And I've had him since I was a very little boy. In fact, let me show you another quick clip. Here's me coming in through the door, holding Hamley. I'm holding him upside down. You can just see his bottom. But that's exactly the same bear, except these days I don't sleep with him. He sleeps with my daughter Matilda. Shh, I told you not to show that clip. Anyway, let's get on with the story. The story of Dogger. As I say, this is based on a personal narrative, something that really happened to the writer, Shirley Hughes, and to her son. I'll tell you more about that at the end. For now, let's just enjoy the story. Dogger by Shirley Hughes. Once there was a soft brown toy called Dogger. One of his ears pointed upwards and the other flopped over. Dave was very fond of Dogger. He took him everywhere. Sometimes he gave him rides in a trolley. Sometimes he pulled him along on a lead made of string like a real dog. When it was cold, he wrapped him up in a bit of blanket. Now and again, Dave's mum said that Dogger was getting much too dirty. She showed Dave how to wash him in a bowl of soapy water, and then they hung him up by his tail on the washing line to dry. Dave's baby brother Joe liked hard toys. He liked putting them in his mouth and biting on them because he was getting teeth. Dave's big sister Bella took 7 teddies to bed with her every night. She had to sleep right up against the wall to stop herself from falling out. But Dave liked only Dogger. One afternoon, Dave and Mum set out to collect Bella from school. Mum took Joe in the pushchair and Dave took Dogger. Next to the school gate, where the mums and dads waited, was a playing field. Some men with ladders were putting up coloured flags. Mum said that there was going to be a summer fair to get money to buy things for the school. Dave pushed Dogger up against the railing to show him what was going on. Just then, the children started to come out of school. An ice cream van came round the corner, playing a tune. Bella ran out with her satchel flying. "Mum, can we have an ice cream?" Mum gave her the money for 2 cones. Joe didn't have a whole ice cream to himself because he was too dribbly. On the way home, Dave walked beside the pushchair, giving Joe licks off his ice cream. Joe kicked his feet about and shouted for more in between licks. At tea time, Dave was rather quiet. In the bath, he was even quieter. At bedtime, he said, "I want Dogger," but Dogger was nowhere to be found. Mum looked under the bed. She looked behind the cupboard, and she searched in the kitchen. And underneath the stairs. Dave watched anxiously through the banisters. Joe watched through the bars of his cot. Bella joined in to look for Dogger. She turned out her own toy box in case he was in there, but he wasn't. When Dad came home, he looked for Dogger too. He searched in the shed and down the garden path with a torch, but Dogger was quite lost. Dave was very sad when he went to bed. Bella kindly lent her one of her teddies to go to sleep with, but it was not the same thing as Dogger. Dave kept waking up in the night and missing him. The next day was Saturday, and they all went to the school summer fair. The playing field was full of stalls and sideshows. There was a fancy dress parade, and there were sports with an egg and spoon race, a wheelbarrow race, and a father's race. Bella was very good at races. She won the 3-legged race with her friend Barbara. "Wouldn't you like to go in for a race?" they asked Dave. But Dave didn't feel like racing. He was missing Dogger too much. Then another very exciting thing happened to Bella. She won first prize in a raffle. It was a huge yellow teddy bear wearing a beautiful blue silk bow. He was almost as big as Dave. Dave didn't like that teddy at all. At the moment he didn't like Bella much either because she kept on winning things. He went off on his own to look at the stalls. One lady had a toy stall full of knitted ducks and cars and baby dolls and bonnets. And there, at the very back of the stall, behind a lot of other toys, was Dogger. He was wearing a ticket saying 5p. Now this story takes place in England, so 5p is a bit like 5 cents. There were a lot of people round the stall. Dave tried to explain to the lady that this was his Dogger, who had got lost and some had been put on the stall by mistake. But she wasn't listening. He looked in his pocket. He had 3p, but that wasn't enough. He ran to find Mum and Dad to ask them to buy Dogger back at once. Dave went everywhere in the crowd, but he couldn't see Mum and Dad. He thought he was going to cry. At last he found Bella by the cakes. When she heard about Dogger, she and Dave ran back to the toy store as fast as they could. But something terrible had happened. Dogger had been bought by a little girl. She was already walking off with him. Dave began to cry. Bella ran after her and tried to explain that Dogger really belonged to Dave, and could they please buy him back? But the little girl said no. She said that she had bought Dogger with her own money, and she wanted him. She held on to him very tightly. Dave cried and cried, and the little girl started to cry too. But out of the corner of her eye, she caught sight of Bella's big yellow teddy. She stopped crying, put out her hand to stroke his beautiful blue silk bow. Then Bella did something very kind. "Would you swap this teddy for my brother's dog then?" she asked. Right away the little girl stopped crying and began to smile. She held out Dogger to Dave, took the big teddy instead, and went off with him in her arms. Then Dave smiled too. He hugged Dogger and he hugged Bella round the waist. "Thank you, Bella," he said. That night Dave had Dogger in bed beside him. Bella was practicing somersaults. "Shall you miss that big teddy?" Dave asked her. "No," said Bella. "I didn't like him much really. He was too big and his eyes were too staring. Anyway, if I had another teddy in my bed, there wouldn't be room for me." Whew. That story gets me every time. I tell you, I'm so pleased the Dogger makes it back to Dave. Now, as I was saying before we read the story, it's actually based on something that really happened to the author, Shirley Hughes. When she was a little girl, she lost her teddy as well, and her daddy had to go and look for it with a torch. But sadly, she didn't find that teddy, But that's why she gave Dogger such a happy ending to make up for it. The other thing that's real about this story is that Dogger himself is real. It was a present given to her son, who's not called Dave, actually, he's called Ed. And you know what? Dogger is still around to this day. This story was written a long time ago. And Ed is quite grown up now. In fact, he's 65. Shirley Hughes, his mother, is 92. She's still writing. She's written over 50 books in her life. And to date, has sold almost 12 million, which is pretty impressive. What a beautiful story. All right, that is the end of library class for today. I'm going to take Hamley off and we will see you next time. But please keep exploring, keep discovering, stay safe, take care. Bye-bye. See.